Hey, well, you missed a recognition of Reformation Sunday, the Sunday that we acknowledge our Protestant roots, our need and desire to reform, not reject, not run away from, but to examine the habits and practices of an organization or of an individual, and then wonder whether they're achieving their purpose. The things that I do, the things that I think, the things that I say, are they actually helping me engage with God? Are they bringing me closer to the love of God? Do they bring me into the company of Jesus, or do they hold me back? In essence, that was one of the questions that Martin Luther was asking, and those who were part of the Reformation. And they decided that they needed to go in a new direction, a new way, to let go of some of the old, that they could again embrace the new with the hope that they would be able to engage with God, that their faith could be vital and meaningful. So on Reformation Sunday, we acknowledge the reform movement that led to the Protestant church, but we recognize the need to always reform, the daring and love it requires to look at what it is that we do and think and say and ask ourselves again and again, does this really achieve what we'd hoped for? Does this bring us into God's love? Does it help us engage with the love and ministry of Jesus Christ? So you missed that, but you could do that on your own. You also missed the story of Bartimaeus and the ending of Job, and it's always nice to have a happily ever after kind of ending. So we did that with Job, but then we heard the story of the blind beggar who calls out to Jesus. And Jesus beckons him, invites him into his company, and he throws off his cloak, Bartimaeus does, and comes to Jesus and asks for his sight. And we wondered about the importance of such a story. Is this really about one blind man 2,000 years ago? Is this really about Jesus and Jesus' ability to do miracles, to heal? And we wondered if perhaps it's not about more than that, but an invitation for any of us to engage with God, to engage with Jesus, to find abundant life. Not a small, empty life in darkness, but a life in light, an abundant life filled with challenge and disappointment, but also love and reward, vitality. Bartimaeus had to throw off his cloak to approach Jesus. In fact, first he had to voice his concern. And we're not always so sure that we should speak out loud when something's wrong. Something wrong with the world or wrong with us. But if we're to follow the example of Bartimaeus, then we need to call out when something hurts, when something's wrong, when we have a need to speak up and not listen to the shushing of the crowd or of culture. But then we also need to be prepared to throw off our cloak, the thing that protects us, the thing that identifies us. In the case of Bartimaeus, who would have been a beggar, quite likely it also would mean in throwing off the cloak, he threw off the money that he had collected in the folds of that cloak as people tossed their money, their coins to him. So he, in fact, risked it all to be with Jesus. The question is, what are we willing to risk? Are we willing to risk being right? Are we willing to risk being safe? Are we willing to risk our time or our money, or would we prefer a life of very little risk, where we do the same thing every day, wearing the same cloak, lying down in front of the same TV, watching the same shows, and wondering why life seems so unabundant? Perhaps the story today, we wondered, is an invitation for us to throw off the cloak, to dare, to call out and engage with God and discover abundance all around us. That's what we wondered today. And that's what you missed at Jubilee. Hopefully we'll get to see you soon. But until we get to see you, keep wondering. And wonder what it is that you do that brings you closer to God. And keep doing that. And don't be afraid to reform. Don't be afraid to throw off your cloak and find the way that gets you closer to God. God bless you. We'll see you soon.